What's going on, guys? Nick here. In this video, I'm going to take a departure from the usual sorts of videos that I've been recording, which typically deal with tools and how to optimize various aspects of your workflow. And instead, I just want to talk a little more generally about a trend that I'm seeing a lot of people fall prey to, unfortunately. And it's resulting in just a lot of disappointment. It's resulting in a lot of people unable to learn the sorts of business skills that I think you need in order to succeed. And it's resulting in a ton of people burning out. And it's what I call starting a SaaS as your first business. Now, a lot of people that get into business seem to do so, or at least want to do so, through the SaaS route. They think, hey, I'm going to build this fancy, amazing product that solves all these amazing problems, and it's just going to be there, and people are going to sign up to my shit and pay me tons of money for it. What they don't realize is that starting a SaaS is probably the worst company that you could do if you've never started a business before. And that 99% of the people that are probably watching this video or that haven't started a business before would do way better if they took a couple steps back and then just started an agency instead. You're going to add less than 6 months total time to like the turnaround and kind of work cycle. And maybe not even that. Like you might actually be able to develop your SaaS significantly faster because of all the money and all of the skills that you're going to learn building an agency. So I'm very bullish on agencies. I mean, I know that everybody's like agencies are dead and the agency era is past and all that shit. I disagree completely. I mean, I think that services in general are getting more difficult to manage at scale as people are becoming more aware of some of the major pitfalls of outsourcing, and globalization is equalizing market rates across countries. But I don't necessarily think that means that agencies as a business model are bad to go into, and I don't know if they'll ever be bad to go into. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to show you logically why you should start an agency instead of a SaaS company if this is your first time considering a business. Hell, even if it's your second, third, fourth, fifth time considering a business. If you just want to start a SaaS, the likelihood of success is so fucking low that you would almost always be served just thinking a little bit more about, okay, is there a service that I could provide instead of the SaaS that I can figure all the shit out manually, and then I can build a productized or software solution afterwards. So here is what we're going to talk about today. Number one, agencies give you more upfront revenue. I'll talk about why that's important. Number two, I'll talk about the business fundamentals that you learn starting an agency that you do not learn starting a SaaS. And then number three, I'm going to talk about the mindset and why agency mindsets are just so much more profitable and just better for the vast majority of business owners than the mindsets that people have when they build a SaaS. So let's start with number one, okay? I view business on like a gradient. And the gradient is, on the one side, you have extremely scalable businesses that can go to the multi-billion-dollar mark, okay? These are like network effect consumer software businesses like Facebook or Instagram or whatever, where there's so little inherent value that getting the flywheel started is so goddamn difficult. Like, imagine how difficult it was to get the first customer of Facebook, let's say, versus like the first customer of an agency. It was probably, what's the value there? You just you just sign up to a website and look at a blank page. There's no friends, there's no nothing, right? But anyway, that business is still extremely scalable, and it tends to grow better and better and better with the more people in it, right? And you make billions of dollars. So that's on one side, that's a super scalable business. And then the other side, you have unscalable businesses that can make a lot of money very quickly, but then can't really go past that cap. And these are agencies. Agencies can make a lot of money very quickly, but the vast majority of people that run agencies just can't scale them because they either lack some management know-how, or maybe the service is inherently difficult to scope, or all that bullshit. So the point that I'm making is I just want you to view business as this gradient where you have scalability on the one side, and then you have just like fast, easy growth, easy pickings initially on the other side. And if it's your first business, you should not be starting the extremely scalable, extremely difficult to get running business. You should not be trying to start the next Facebook. You should not be trying to build a SaaS when you don't even know the fundamentals of client acquisition or anything like that. You should go for the easy wins. You should make a fuck ton of money extremely quickly, like myself and many other of my friends that are in the agency space. And then once you have those fundamentals, it becomes so much easier to do everything later on. And you have a fair amount of cash, which is, I think, just existentially really beneficial. Okay, so here are some of the, maybe not facts, some of these are heavily opinionated, but let's be real, my opinions are basically facts at this point. If it's your first time running a business, you should know that agencies are going to make anywhere from 10 to 20 times more revenue upfront than a SaaS company will. Even if you're doing some type of monthly billing with an agency, you're going to make just so much more. Consider a managed service with an agency, like graphic design or I don't know, in my case, content writing, or maybe some big SEO package or whatever. Like you're charging, $3, 4, 5, 10, $15,000 a month for that package. The vast majority of the low-touch SaaS companies that people are thinking about when they're like, oh, I want to start a SaaS that like solves this tiny little problem, you're making like 10 or 20 bucks a month for it. How many customers do you have to get to equivalent that, right? Like 500 or something. So it's like, what's going to be faster? You building the flywheel up to get 500 customers when you don't even have any of the infrastructure built up, or you just going out hauling ass and then getting like one customer that pays you 10K a month? Obviously the latter. And that's why agencies are so much easier as a first revenue vehicle. The second thing is, and this is sort of related to that point, having a bunch of money changes the way that you do business. The vast majority of these SaaS guys that, either think they have to finance and I'll get into financing later, or, they've just never really operated a business before. They're like super afraid to like invest money into growth and marketing and stuff like that. It's just because they're broke. They don't have any money. With an agency, you make a fair amount of money very quickly, and then you can start making like actual investment and operational decisions that, have outsized success potential with your capital. If you make like $30,000 one month, and then after operating expenses, you have, I don't know, let's just say 10K left over. So you have like 40% margin or something like that. That's still 10,000 freaking dollars. How many ad campaigns is that, or cold email campaigns? Like you can actually start hiring people pretty quick. So there's just a lot of potential. You learn how to use money and handle money a lot faster, which is obviously extremely valuable. Another thing is you can also just like make a fair amount of money extremely quickly and then use that money to pour gasoline on the fire of a SaaS company later. I see tons of people do this, and man, this is just like the number one most like statistically likely way to achieve success in the SaaS field, just having a ton of money while also not being reliant on outside investors. And then there's also just a bunch of lifestyle benefits, which I find really hard to operationalize, but like, a lot of these SaaS founders, and I see them on Twitter every day, and I talk to them on Twitter, and I'm like, dude, you should just make some money first. Like, a lot of these guys are just like eating fucking packet ramen all day, or they're just like super freaking broke, and they just hate their lives, and they're chugging along this dream, right? They can't pay their bills, they can't pay their rent, they're always stressed out, always worrying about the next dollar. Meanwhile, they picked literally like the most difficult way to make that next dollar. It's just completely illogical. What you should do is you should solve that lifestyle myopia first, right? Like you should solve the blockers that you have that prevent you from being able to make long-term decisions because you're always so worried about your rent and your food and shit. And then once you have that all taken care of and like your near-term security is handled, well, then you get one rung up on the Maslow's hierarchy, baby. You can actually start thinking long-term about the sorts of bigger plays that you want to do with your life. And a lot of the time, that intentionality leads you to way greater success than just starting a SaaS company and hating your life for a few years does, on the outsized unlikely chance that you will succeed big, which most people don't. So that's number one. Number two, business fundamentals. So I touched on this earlier, but you have money, so you need to start making decisions with that money. In addition to that, another really cool part of agencies are that the vast majority of agencies provide some type of ongoing service. As a result of providing an ongoing service, you need to learn client management skills, and you also need to learn team management skills, and you also need to learn like project management skills. But I guess all those somehow go hand in hand. But client management is one of the most important, impactful skills that you can learn in business, because client management is very similar to customer management. And customer management can be done either by you jumping on the phone or sending them an email, or when you later design your SaaS, just building in like user experience patterns that handle a lot of the bullshit that one of these customers or clients might be giving you up front. The only real way to get in the mindset of a customer, somebody that is paying you a large amount of money, is just to do it really often. And it's very difficult to do so when your justification or the question that they're asking is this worth $5? Like it's very difficult to understand that. Now, if the question they're asking themselves is this worth $5,000? Well, then you can start fucking learning this shit pretty quick, right? Pardon my French. If you don't like swearing, you should probably not watch my videos. Anywho, so you learn client management. You learn team management as well. Like agencies are a very people-heavy business, as automated as they can get nowadays. Like my business, 1 Second Copy, I'd consider it extremely automated. It's like very productized form of content writing. There's very little like account executive BS. There's very little project management aside from like the team sort of self-managing, which is great. But you still have to hire people to get the stuff done, right? Like you can probably work as a solo operator, as a freelancer up to like 10 or 20K a month. But after that point, you start needing to like hire people. And your ability to manage a team is so much easier learned in an agency where like you guys are doing a service together. There's some type of deliverable with the client expectations needing to be managed and that sort of thing, than in a SaaS company when you're usually just hiring like some customer service or support rep. And it's just like one or so people for like the first like 20 or 30 or 40K. So you learn how to manage a team, which doesn't just make you better at running that agency, it just makes you better, like a more charismatic, a more humble, a more compassionate human being, which is obviously just going to benefit you more generally in life. And then, yeah, you also learn how to manage projects, and your ability to execute projects for your clients are going to roll over into your ability to execute projects for yourself. One of your later projects might be create a SaaS. Well, it's like, okay, well, fuck, now I know how to actually like do that from a project management perspective. I need to scope this out. I need to determine like the market demand for it. I need to build like an MVP as quickly as possible. And then I need to like validate and iterate on that, right? So you get to learn these things extremely quickly in an agency. And I've probably compressed like 10 years of running a SaaS into like 1.5 to 2 years of running an agency, which is just super valuable. And then the last thing is the mindset that you have as a result of having an agency. Like agencies, for the most part, the vast majority of them do not raise money because there's just nothing proprietary about that business model, and venture capitalists do not give a shit about investing in stuff unless there's like a 0.01% chance you're going to be the next Uber. Even if your value proposition is good, nobody's going to give a shit. Hence, agencies find it either very difficult to invest, they don't really want to spend time investing or whatever the case is. That just means that like they're forced to bootstrap the vast majority of the time, or supply some type of like internal capital to like keep the thing to self-invest or get the flywheel started. The difference in spending your own money versus somebody else's money cannot be overstated. I work with, like when I started my agency, I did a bunch of research into the other companies in the space and all these businesses that like tried to be content agencies that also provided some like proprietary service. And I can't tell you like the 4 or the 5 guys that did this, like back when I first started my business, the 4 or 5 guys that like raised a fair amount of money and then tried to do some type of like twist on just like the tried and true service business model with like, artificial intelligence or like some type of fancy pants, like request ordering system or whatever you want to call it, these marketplaces. Like the vast majority of them are now dead because they were spending somebody else's money. They weren't spending their own money. And when you spend somebody else's money, it's so easy to forget how valuable that money is. You really do lose the value of a dollar. When you cultivate a scrappy mindset where every dollar you spend is a dollar that you have to acquire from a customer or supply yourself, you become so much more creative about how you make those purchasing decisions. You become significantly more like profit aware, which is like obviously the most important freaking part of the business is cash flows, people. Why the hell would you operate at a negative for like the first 15 years if that's not your goal, right? But you learn basically all the fundamental skills required in becoming a great business owner, and then you cultivate this scrappy mindset, which literally anybody, aside from like a select few people in Silicon Valley venture capital community, like care about the most. And those skills are going to take you extremely far in any business that you work with, whether in the capacity of a client or whether you're starting your own SaaS company or that sort of thing. So this guerrilla, scrappy sort of mindset, this cash flow first, this profit first mindset, that is like the most valuable sort of just like paradigm to use in business that I've personally ever found. And the vast majority of the guys that are like, I'm going to make this SaaS company, it's going to be a unicorn, and I need to go and get financing, they never learn that shit. Another thing is looking for fundraising. Like optimizing for fundraising is a fundamentally skill than optimizing for profit. Like I just looked up SaaS financing here and just look at all these fucking charts with all these different steps and that sort of thing. Like this is like a very fundamentally different skill set that you're optimizing for. You're attempting to impress investors with the possibility or potential of an idea rather than impressing customers with like concrete value that you're actually delivering today. And in 99.9% of cases, I would always prefer that first part. I'm not here to sell a dream. I'm here to like live an amazing kick-ass lifestyle, make more money than 99% of people, and work like less than 10%, as much as my peers do to do that. So don't optimize for impressing a bunch of people in suits. Optimize for making your customers love your product and then wanting to work with you long term. And then the last part I'll say is, really know why you're getting into business in the first place. And the vast majority of people, as I mentioned earlier, are not in business because they want to make the next Uber or the next Facebook or whatever. They're in business just because they sort of intuitively realize like, hey, I'm a pretty high performer, and why should my performance and why should my earnings be capped by what somebody else says that I can make, right? Why should I work at a company where I'm forced to just stare at a clock all day when in reality I can do most of that work in 2 or 3 hours? Like that's the vast majority of people that are in business and watching this video. If you're a high performer, you just want like an outsized impact. Every hour that you spend delivers, let's say 15 hours what you'd make in a normal company or something like that, which is most people that are watching this video. Starting a SaaS just does not make sense. You can eventually have that SaaS running, and you could start it in a year or two after you've learned the rest of all these business practices, and your expected value and your expected chances of success will be much higher. And then it makes sense to start a SaaS because now you know what the fuck you're doing, and you can actually make 10 or 15K a month, keep 90% of it, and then only have to work a few hours a week. That's good. But if it's one of your first times starting a businesses, if it's one of your first times starting a business, that's not you. And you should just be pragmatic and intelligent and smart about it. Make some money as quickly as humanly possible, and then use that money to grow whatever the hell else you want to do. So I hope that makes sense. That's just a little deep dive into a thought that I've been having recently and what a lot of people on Twitter have been asking me about. If I could go back in time, like I've ran through dozens of different business models at this point. If I could go back in time, I would just try and start an agency in a very simple service space that's well-defined to start. And the reason why is because I don't really want the focus to be on like imagining or dreaming up this new incredibly complex business model. It's like, I don't know any business model. So I might as well just learn one that other people have validated for me, learn that shit real well, and then I can worry about, making that new and fancy later on. That's my mindset. I hope that helps you. If you guys like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff for the YouTube algo. And let me know if you guys have any questions or anything like that you want me to cover. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.